Aliens have always been prominent in the pages of our favorite comic books. Back in the 1950s, there was a boom within the science fiction genre that featured aliens as plot points, with the term extraterrestrials first being used in 1956 in what was deemed the golden age of science fiction. But variations of aliens had appeared in comics long before then. Flash Gordon fought against aliens in 1936 in his serial comic strip, for example. So, riffing off of the recent news that people plan on storming Area 51, we are diving into hypothetical land with our list of the top 10 alien superheroes who belong in Area 51. Now, for the most part, the list will consist of superheroes that were born on an extraterrestrial planet that, if they were real, would likely find themselves being placed into government supervision at high security facilities. So with that in mind, let's get to it. Starting us off in at number 10, Superman. This would not be a true comic book alien list if we didn't include Kal-El himself, Superman, the OG alien superhero. Born on the planet Krypton, his parents would ship him off in a small rocket ship to Earth moments before Krypton would meet its impending destruction. The spaceship landed in the American countryside and the baby was found by Jonathan and Martha Kent, who would name him Clark and raise him as their own. While his backstory and the story of Krypton have been altered and retconned ever so slightly over the years, for the most part at its core it has remained the same. Despite Superman being a shining symbol for patriotism, especially in the golden and silver ages of comic books, he is technically an illegal immigrant, an alien whose civilian alias poses as one of us. It's actually one of the things that makes him so great. And relatable too. But let's be real, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that if Superman did exist, and was found by someone other than the Kents, like in some of the alternate Superman stories that we've seen over the years, looking at you Superman Red Sun, the idea of him being placed within a government facility to be studied and primarily to be controlled wouldn't be a complete long shot. Moving on to another DC character in at 9, Starfire. Starfire is arguably one of DC's most well-known alien superheroes. Created by the iconic duo of George Perez and Marv Wolfman, Starfire, aka Coriander, first debuted in DC Comics Presents issue 26 in 1980, as a member of the Tamaranian race in the Vega system. She is a character who sometimes has found herself struggling to fit in with the human race, despite being one of the Teen Titans' most valuable members. Back when she was about to marry Dick Grayson, their nuptials were interrupted by an evil raven at the time, she was dealing with a lot of anti-alien sentiments that sprang up in response to their upcoming wedding. Considering her wide range of abilities thanks to her Tamaranian physiology, it wouldn't be all that shocking to see a cooperative alien the likes of Starfire working with the government, hanging out in a place like Area 51. But her sister Blackfire would be a whole other story on that front. No bueno. She's evil. And at 8, Matter Eater Lad. Matter Eater Lad often makes lists on our channel for how preposterous his powers are. He's a fellow who joined up with the Legion of Superheroes and can literally eat matter of all forms, even things that are near indestructible. This is something that all of the natives of his home planet can do. Now, if you're surprised to learn that he's actually an alien instead of a metahuman, you probably wouldn't be the only one to have that thought. Like I said, he is often talked about because of how silly he is. Anywho, Matter Eater Lad, whose real name is Tenzil Kem, first appeared in Adventure Comics 303, which was the issue he also broke down his origin story for us. He came from a planet called Bismol, in which the people there had found that microbes had made all of their food inedible and therefore they evolved to eat all matter as a means of survival. So everyone on his home planet can do what he can do. Not much else is ever really revealed about his homeworld, but at one point his brother does show up and tries to take his place on the team, and it is implied that his family life growing up was rather rough for Matter Eater Lad. The one upside is that, since writers struggled to fit him into the Legion stories due to his absurd powers, he often was pulled into his home planet's politics thanks to his newfound fame on Earth, and he even became a senator there at one point. Not too shabby, dude. And at number 7, Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer is one of Marvel Comics' biggest cosmic characters. Initially a villain of sorts, working as Galactus' herald, Silver Surfer, who was previously known as Norrin Rad, came from a planet called Zenla. He made a bargain with the Devourer of Worlds, leave Zenla and his people alone, and he would work for him, traveling across the universe to find planets for Galactus to consume. Often he is a character that readers forget is actually an alien rather than just some sort of cosmic entity, a mistake that is typically made thanks to his powers, and the fact that he was imbued with the power cosmic by Galactus. Can you imagine a force like Silver Surfer cooperating with the government? I mean, not likely, because it would be hard to, imagine something like that actually existing without further implications, but it is still a pretty cool thought. And at 6, MIEK. MIEK was never really a big character in the comics, but really made an impression on fans thanks to his appearance and adaptation in Thor Ragnarok. And to be fair, the movie did take some liberties, turning MIEK into more of a larva creature rather than his comic book iteration, which was a humanoid roach. Kinda makes sense why they did that. Regardless, he's the kind of alien we'd expect to see hanging out in Area 51. First appearing in The Incredible Hulk Volume 1, Issue 92 in 2006, he was introduced in the famous Planet Hulk storyline as a member of the planet Sakar's race of insectoids. Native race, might I add. He would accompany Hulk back to Earth, pledging to aid him in a quest of vengeance against those who had exiled the big green monster. But by The Incredible Hulk Issue 625, MIEK was perceived to have fallen to his death after betraying Hulk, having made an agreement to save his own people if he could obtain Hulk as a sacrifice. Hulk would also chop off one of his arms in their final battle, which is pretty gruesome. Moving on to number 5, KRYPTO, the super dog. An alien dog? Yeah, that sounds exactly like the kind of thing that would find itself inside of Area 51, if Area 51 is filled with aliens. Could just be an airbase, just saying. While KRYPTO the super dog looks like a regular old pup in a cape, he is anything but. He was first introduced in Adventure Comics issue 210 in 1955, shortly after the Comics Code Authority was introduced, and the need to make the Man of Steel look more appealing as a family figure arose, thanks to criticisms initiated about the character and his fellow DC peers by Frederick Wortham in his book Seduction of the Innocent. Make Superman a family man and give him a dog. That'll normalize him, right? KRYPTO was introduced as toddler Kal-El's dog when they were on Krypton together, and was sent to Earth when his father was testing out prototypes for the rocket that would inevitably be used to send Kal-El to Earth. KRYPTO's rocket, of course, was knocked off course, explaining why he only arrived on the planet years after Superman did, showing up when the hero was a teen. Later, his origins would be altered after the Crisis on Infinite Earth story arc, much like many other DC characters. Moving on to 4, Rocket Raccoon. Rocket Raccoon has a really interesting origin story in the comics, one that could align with the ideas about Area 51 if you believe that it is an insidious facility conducting experiments on extraterrestrials, to each their own. So in the comics, Rocket is the guardian of the Keystone Quadrant, which is a section of space sealed off from the rest of the universe by something called the Glacian Wall. Rocket is the captain of his own ship, and he comes from a planet called Half-World in that quadrant, which is an abandoned colony for the mentally ill, where animals were genetically mutated to become companions for them, giving them human-level intelligence and bipedal body construction in order to act as caretakers. Rocket would go around protecting the colony from threats. He had also been a lab subject on the Strangers planet and escaped captivity there. These days he's doing much better roaming around with the Guardians of the Galaxy and his good pal Groot, who he had actually brought into the team as a member. Moving on to number 3, Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter, unlike some of the rest of the numbers on this list, is one of the most notable and recognized aliens in comics. Ja'on Jones first appeared in Detective Comics issue 225 in 1955, hailing from Mars in a story titled The Manhunter from Mars. That Silver Age story featured him as a green-skinned Martian who was pulled to Earth by a teleportation beam experiment. The scientist who accidentally brought him there to Earth dies of shock, leaving Ja'on stuck on the planet with no way home. So, what does the alien do? Well, he decides to fight crime with his Martian powers. Now, at this time in the DC universe, Mars was not suggested to be a dead planet yet, or that Ja'on was the last of his kind. Those narratives would come later in the Bronze Age. Being one of the original members of the Justice League, it wouldn't be surprising that if Ja'on Jones were real, we would probably get an iteration of him like what appears in the CW Supergirl show, in which Martian Manhunter works for the government, leading a team that deals with extraterrestrial threats. Moving on to number 2, Groot. Groot is arguably one of the most fascinating alien characters to exist in the comics. Perhaps this is thanks to his familiar physicality. He's essentially an extraterrestrial sentient tree. His first appearance didn't feature the character in the most noble light though, like he's seen today. Instead, he was an invader who wanted to capture human beings for experimentation. Yeah, awkward. That was back in Tales to Astonish issue 12 in 1960, but luckily for us in 2006, the character was brought out of obscurity in the 6-issue limited series Nick Fury's Howling Commandos, and later appeared in the Annihilation story arcs alongside Star-Lord. And then he was placed in the Guardians of the Galaxy, which would then be the basis for the MCU Guardians movies. Groot is part of a species called Flora Colossus, similar to J.R.R. Tolkien's Ents from Lord of the Rings. Alien Ents kinda seems like a thing that would maybe end up finding its way into a facility like Area 51, who knows. And finally, in our number 1 spot, Venom. Venom is yet another major Marvel alien who is often forgotten as being such. He is a member of the Clintar race, a sentient alien symbiote with an amorphous liquid-esque form that survives by bonding to a host, which in most cases in the comics is human. Now before he was known as Venom, the character first appeared as the alien costume in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 252 from 1984, in the aftermath of the first Secret Wars arc. Spider-Man would believe he was a black costume, but then began to learn the nefarious nature of the creature, and was then separated in time from the symbiote thanks to Reed Richards. It would return though, this time known as Venom, in Web of Spider-Man issue 18 from 1986 in a teaser, and then again in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 300 in 1988, this time bonding with Eddie Brock, a character who also had his own grudge against Spider-Man. And really, if Venom's arc with the Life Foundation in the comics and his time with Flash Thompson has taught us anything, it is that the government and those with wealth can see how the Clintars make for a useful tool, despite being an incredibly dangerous one. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other aliens from the comics could you imagine being in Area 51? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know. If you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more lists just like this one, but less Area 51 themed. We also have a nifty little playlist currently flashing on your screen filled with videos that you will totally dig, so give it a click. In the meantime though, thanks for watching, friends. I'll catch you all in the next video.